We have a jam-packed show of a bunch of Steelers news and rumors to cover today on Steelers Talk. We're going to start with some injury updates. Kenny Pickett, Pat Freiermuth, got some updates on these guys to share with you guys today. Then also, are the Steelers not interested in trading for Jonathan Taylor? Jay Glazer had a very interesting report today. And then also, is the defense actually bad? Is this defense actually overrated after giving up 30 points to the Houston Texans? I'll give you my thoughts. And then also, I'm going to go on a big-time Matt Canada rant at the end of today's show, so make sure you stick around to the very end. Before we get into today's news and rumors, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to join the fastest-growing Steelers channel here on the YouTube platform. It's 100% free. We got videos every day. We got watch parties every single week for every single Steelers game. So if you want to join us, do me a favor, click that subscribe button right now. Now let's start with these injury updates, man. Kenny Pickett will miss limited time with a minor knee sprain suffered in Week 4 versus the Houston Texans. I do want to say we don't have official word from the team as of yet, but the reports coming outside of the team have indicated that they believe it's a minor knee sprain of some sort, and he's going to be back at some point in the near future. Probably not going to play this week versus the Baltimore Ravens, but then the Steelers have their bye week in Week 6. The team is hoping that he's going to be able to be back for Week 7 here of the NFL season. So if you want to wish Kenny Pickett a speedy recovery, and this is definitely good news because that injury looked nasty yesterday in Houston. Definitely lucky for Kenny Pickett here in this news that we got today. Type 8 down there in the comments section to wish QB1 a speedy recovery. And now let's get to the rest of these injury updates here. Good news for Pickett. Now some bad news on Muth. The reports coming out are saying that his hamstring injury suffered in Week 4 versus the Texans is expected to keep him out for a while. They're saying it's more than just a tweak. And if it's anything like Deontay Johnson's injury, we're looking at 4, 5, maybe even 6 weeks without Pat Freiermuth in the lineup for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, which is definitely not something that you want to hear if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. He's one of the best receiving tight ends in this league, and we still don't know a whole lot about Dan Moore Jr. and DeMarvin Leal on the injury report coming out of yesterday's game. They said Dan Moore Jr.'s injury was a knee. I watched a video of the actual play where he got injured. He got rolled up on the knee. It looked kind of nasty, so I don't know how long he's going to be out, so expect Broderick Jones to be the starting left tackle for the time being. And then DeMarvin Leal left with a concussion. If you know anything about the NFL's concussion protocol, especially nowadays, it's very, very difficult to be placed in the protocol and then play the following week. And right now, man, these injuries are really starting to stack up for the black and gold. You got your quarterback, Kenny Pickett, on there. Cam Hayward and Deontay Johnson have already been missing a couple weeks. They will continue to miss time. Pat Freiermuth looks like he's going to miss a significant portion of time as well. James Daniels didn't play this last week at right guard. Dan Moore Jr. now, another starting offensive lineman, is dealing with a knee. Presley Harvin III, the punter even. It's even affecting the special teams now, guys. This injury bug is getting everywhere. And, of course, DeMarvin Leal as well is probably going to be placed in concussion protocol here moving forward. And, you know, I'm looking forward to this here. I really hope that the Steelers can really start to figure things out here, get these players back healthy, hopefully maybe figure some things out on offense, whether that means firing Matt Canada or whatever. But I'm gonna get to Canada later in today's show, man. But let's get into the next topic here, where I'm going to be talking a little bit about Jonathan Taylor. And Jay Glazer reports that the Colts had 0 trade offers on the table for Jonathan Taylor. So that means the Steelers, of course, didn't submit an offer. And now the news coming today, Taylor's going to be taken off the PUP list, and he's going to practice with the Indianapolis Colts on Wednesday. So it seems like JT is going to remain a Colt for the rest of the season, or at least for the foreseeable future. He might still get traded closer to the deadline, but definitely seems like a trade for Jonathan Taylor is not in the cards for the Pittsburgh Steelers, at least not yet. And it definitely looks like they're going to stick with Najee Harris as their starting running back. And listen, I'll give it to Najee. He was one of the bright spots on the offense yesterday, and there weren't a whole lot. I thought Isaac Seumalo, the left guard, really had his best performance of the season so far. He was fantastic on film. And then Najee, man, I thought he did some good things in the run game. He had some nice 10, 15-plus yard runs, 14 carries and 71 total yards. Not great. Lots of stuffs again for this offensive line that wasn't doing him any favors against the Texans, which is really, really concerning because that front seven in Houston isn't all that great. But I thought Najee did a pretty decent job, and I really don't think that he is the issue with this offense right now. I think it's a fundamental issue. I think it's an execution issue. I think it's a schematic issue. And Najee's doing everything that he can. Now, is he going to be that long-term number one option going into the future? That still remains to be seen, man. He still has a lot to prove in this league, and he's going to continue to try to do that. But I definitely don't think that necessarily trading for Jonathan Taylor at this point is really going to change anything in terms of the future of this franchise. Now, coming up here, is it time to worry about the Pittsburgh Steelers defense after giving up 30 points to the Texans? I'm going to let you know what I think here in just a sec, but first let's have a word from our sponsor at BetUS. Go to chatsports.com/bet and use promo code Steelers125 for a 125% deposit bonus today. Now, what does that mean? That means if you put in deposit on the BetUS website from $100 to $600, they're going to give you 125% of that money back to you to use on your bet. So, for example, you put in $100, they're going to give you $125 additional dollars, so a $225 pretty much deposit for just a $100 value. I think that's absolutely fantastic there for a deal in terms of these betting sites. So if you want to take advantage of that right now, go chatsports.com/bet and use promo code Steelers125 to take advantage of that deposit bonus today. All right, so is it time to worry now? Is this Steelers defense overrated? And listen, I definitely think to this point, the defense has been a slight disappointment. You know, weeks 2 and 3, I thought the defense looked a lot better than they did against San Francisco. Of course, you had the 2 defensive touchdowns versus the Browns on Monday Night Football. Then in week 3, you really get after the quarterback. You know, TJ Watt had another great night. But, you know, it's been a bad look so far for defensive coordinator Teryl Austin. Now, I understand why the Steelers brought him back, right? Towards the end of the season. Those last 9 games of the year, the Steelers' defense was the best defense in the National Football League. You're not just going to replace the defensive coordinator who, first of all, has been working his butt off his entire career to get into an opportunity where he could be a defensive play caller. And then in his first opportunity, in his first year as DC, he absolutely does a great job, especially down the stretch. So I don't blame Mike Tomlin at all for allowing him to keep his job as DC and let Brian Flores go to the Minnesota Vikings. I see a lot of people blaming Tomlin for letting Flores go this week, especially after this last loss. And listen, I will admit, Teryl Austin has looked like he's kind of lost out there. He's been getting out-coached by some of these really good teams in San Francisco and Houston with Bobby Slowick, their offensive coordinator, coming from the 49ers, right? They know how to beat this cover 4 quarters heavy type defense that Teryl Austin's trying to run, off zone coverage. That's just not really what Mike Tomlin has done in his time with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm wondering why Tomlin is kind of open to this change, where he used to be all press coverage, man coverage, cover 2 on 3rd down, and exotic looks on 3rd down. And they still do a lot of that stuff, but especially on early downs, having the corners play back, really kind of bend but don't break defense. It's just not Pittsburgh Steelers football, in my opinion. And then also on top of that schematic issue that I think the Steelers are dealing with right now, they're not playing disciplined football. The linebackers are not doing a good job communicating with the secondary. The secondary's not been good in coverage. They haven't been disciplined. They're biting on double moves. It's just not good right now, man. Let's just call it what it is. People not filling out the right run fit. On film, it's ugly. There's a lot of talent on the field when you got guys like TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Patrick Peterson, former All-Pros on the field, guys that are still capable of making Pro Bowls and All-Pro teams, right? It just shouldn't be this disorganized. It shouldn't be this sloppy to start the season. Hopefully, Teryl Austin and Mike Tomlin can figure things out as the season goes on, but right now it's definitely been sloppy. They definitely have the talent to turn it around, though, so overall, I am still hopeful. So right now, do me a favor. Rank where the Steelers' defense is among NFL teams right now. Do you think they're top 5, top 10, or do you think that this team is overrated? Do you think this defense is being overrated right now? Type 5 if you think that they're top 5. Type 10 if you think top 10, or if you think they're overrated. Give me an O down there in the comment section. Now let's talk about who the Steelers should start at quarterback in Kenny Pickett's absence. Like we talked about earlier, it might just be this one game versus the Ravens in Week 5. And Chris Hope, former Steelers defensive lineman, thinks that it should be Mason Rudolph, not Mitchell Trubisky, to get the start this week versus the Baltimore Ravens. This is what Chris Hope had to say. I think they need to go a little deeper down the depth chart and bring up Mason Rudolph. I've been saying this for 2 years, and I still think Mason could arguably be the best quarterback on that roster. That's including Kenny Pickett, by the way. He throws a good deep ball. He showed when he started 2 years ago that he could throw the ball really well. Now, you take a look at the kind of comparison in the career stats between Mitchell and Mason here. Of course, many more starts for Trubisky, being the second overall pick to the Chicago Bears back in 2017. Rudolph, not so much, being a second-round pick, not getting a ton of opportunities. But Trubisky does have more yards per attempt. Of course, Trubisky has the advantage in terms of athleticism, being a runner, kind of creating outside of the pocket. And overall, I think that Trubisky has proven more in this league as a passer. You can see with these numbers, he's got the higher completion percentage, more yards per attempt, more touchdowns per drop back as well, and less interceptions per drop back, which is definitely important to me. I think Trubisky's still a pretty high-end backup in this league, whereas I see Mason as more of a true third-string emergency type. So I'm comfortable going with these two guys as your quarterbacks going into Week 5. Trubisky did throw 3 picks versus the Ravens last year. That can't feel good for your confidence going into this week. But I think I'm still going to go with Trubisky. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Who should be the starting quarterback for the Steelers here in Week 5? Should it be Trubisky? Give me a T if you think him, or if you think it's going to be Rudolph, give me an R down there in the comments section. All right, so now I just want to rant a little bit about this guy, man. Matt Canada needs to go, folks. He does. All right, I've talked about this guy so much on this channel the last 2 years. But listen, man, it's time. It is time. It's been 3 years. The Steelers have only 2 games where they have scored 30 or more points, and one of those was a loss last year to the Bengals. All right, so you look at this team right now. Only no 400-plus yard performances in Matt Canada's tenure. All right, this offensive line can't seem to figure it out under his tutelage. All right, Big Ben even looked awful at times when Matt Canada's offense. This offense is not imaginative. It's not modern. This is an offense that is so stuck in the past. And then what makes it worse is that he doesn't tailor it to his players. All right, it would be one thing if it was old school concepts, but they were working for the talents on the roster. But no, he uses Pat Freiermuth, a receiving tight end, as like an inline blocker when that's not his strength. That is just a perfect encapsulation of a coach trying to put players into a system instead of tailoring the system around the players. I'm telling you, man, Matt Canada, he's been an absolute joke as an offensive coordinator, not only in the National Football League, but also in college. He has never had success anywhere. I don't know why Mike Tomlin, for all the good things that I've had to say about Mike Tomlin on this show over the last 2 years, the biggest blemish, without question, on his resume right now is that he has put up with Matt Canada's incompetence for going on 3 years at this point. And now that we're getting close here, this Week 5 game versus the Baltimore Ravens, you got to buy going into Week 6. I think that this is Canada's last chance. Even with Trubisky, a backup as his quarterback, you have to see something, anything out of this offense, or else I'm showing him the door. And I'm going to say, don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out, man. This guy stinks. I think he's the worst offensive play caller in the National Football League. And then we, the fans of Steelers Nation, we're stuck with him. And for some reason, the head coach doesn't see it and doesn't want to get rid of him. Hopefully, Mike Tomlin, who said that changes are coming, I hope he's true to his word here, because if it's another bad performance for this Steelers offense, I say Matt Canada has got to go. All right, that's my rant. That's what I wanted to get done today, guys. Now let me know what you guys think. Will Matt Canada be fired after Week 5 versus the Ravens? Unfortunately, the Steelers will probably have to lose this football game in order for it to happen. Unfortunately, this offense is probably going to have to score less than 10 points in order for it to happen. But listen, man, I'm not putting anything off the table right now, especially against this Ravens team that just absolutely destroyed the Cleveland Browns. I wouldn't put it past them right now to score 3, 6, 9, 10 points in this football game, and Matt Canada's gone. Give me a yes or give me a no. Do you think Matt Canada will be fired after this Week 5 matchup? That'll be it for me today, Steelers Nation. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. If something happens, if Matt Canada gets fired, we are going live and we are going to party here on Steelers Talk. So whenever that happens, If it happens, go ahead, click that subscribe button and join us, and make sure you turn on that notification bell, because if that happens, we are going to go absolutely bananas here on the show. I will see you guys tomorrow with a preview of this Week 5 matchup between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. So until then, here we go, Steelers.